Hi folks, welcome to Scholar Tarot. Just call me Mayfield, and thanks a ton for joining me at my altar space here. Or, I guess in this case, my study space. Today I'm going to explain my New Year's resolution for 2022, the Tarot Book Report. In an effort to curb my thirst for more decks of cards, I'd like to go in depth with the worlds that I already have in the tarot decks I own. For me, tarot decks are a text, not unlike literature. A good deck will have an overall theme, an argument, or even world building. An amazing deck, however, in my opinion anyways, will have all three. About 10 of my decks not only meet that criteria, but also really want to talk about it in their guidebooks. So here are the decks in no particular order that I'll be doing a book report on, and I'll also list a few honorable mentions in case I change my mind and I want to add some more decks, but that's just assuming that I can even get through the list that I already have. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty, so for the deck in our number one spot, I have the Spirit Keepers Tarot, the Revelation Edition by Benebell Wen. I just received it before Christmas, and I even purchased this thickums alongside it. And I remember posting a picture of it to my Instagram story saying it would keep me busy for like a few months, and that's when the light bulb went off on what I wanted to do for my New Year's resolution. Now, at first glance, this deck might be pretty overwhelming to stare at, but thankfully the little white book here is pretty sufficient for getting a decent reading out of it. Now, for the purposes of this project, I'm interested in getting a better understanding of Wen's intentions for each and every card, and I'm looking forward to the journey. And I hope you are too. Deck number two, I got the Tarot of the Divine by Yoshitani, where the Spirit Keepers Tarot is kind of like a melting pot, from what I can tell anyways. Tarot of the Divine is more like a salad. I'm a sucker for myths, legends, and folklore around the world, and I purchased both the deck and the fairy tale book. I believe I've had... I think I purchased the book after I received the deck. I know for sure that I pre-ordered the deck, I want to say maybe like a few months before it released. So it'll be absolutely wonderful to read through all of these, and it'll definitely be a palate cleanser for, well, as I read all of the other stuff that I'm going to be doing. In our number three spot, I have the Tarot Restless by Winslow Dumaine. This is the third edition that just came out from Kickstarter. And I've worked with this deck a little bit, and it was simply a pleasure to work with. And I look forward to gaining a better understanding of it as well. But, I mean, this deck just kind of blew me away with the amount of just finding beauty in, like, the grotesque. And what's even awesomer is that there is a bunch of lore. He basically made this new world out of his tarot deck, and I'm really excited to jump into that. So I'm going to present these two decks together. The 4 and 5 spot are the Hoodoo Tarot by Tayannah Lee McQuillar and the New Orleans Voodoo Tarot by Louis Martinier and Sally Ann Glassman. And what I want to do with these two decks is that I want to put them into conversation with one another. I'll also be rereading my copy of Mojo Working by the same author here as a reference, or rather a secondary source. So that'll be an interesting project to get into. And in the number 6 spot, I have the DustIIOnyx Tarot by Courtney Alexander. This is the travel edition, since I wanted to be able to get my hands on it. The DustIIOnyx absolutely has a solid thesis in its text. So solid that it was actually the first deck that inspired me to look at tarot through an academic lens. I only have the travel edition once again, so it doesn't come with the guidebook, but I was incredibly pleased to find out that Alexander has a paperback version available on her site. So I purchased it as soon as I found out about it, and I'm just waiting on my copy to come in. So that's going to be super exciting for me to take a look at. Okay, so I won't even bother getting the tarot decks for this because it's technically a collection, and that's going to be the Visions collection by James R. Eads. This is the Big Visions book that I got from his Kickstarter. It has the Cosmovisions Oracle on one side and the Prismavisions on the other, and I do have all three of the Visions tarot decks. I have the Light Visions, I think that one's 3rd edition, I have the 1st edition Cosmovisions, and I have the 5th edition Prismavisions. And I'm really more interested in learning the court cards from the Cosmovisions, but I think it's important to be able to know the Prismavisions a little bit more intimately too. I'll also read the Geomantic Visions guidebook for cross-reference, because pretty much all of the coins are the court cards from the Prismavisions. And so I think it'll be very interesting to read through those and see how they intersect. In our number 8 spot, we have the Ehècatl Tarot by Chicome. Its official name is the Tarot Yohualli Ehècatl. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But I have seen other people refer to it as the Ehècatl Tarot, spelled Mexica. And just wanted to say that this deck had no business going this hard. It is just excellent quality, and as you can see, I mean, it's a hardcover book and it has a lot of information. I'm a sucker for mythology, lore, and just different cultures, and this beautifully made text has a lot of info I'm excited to learn. It's a kind of a Rider-Waite clone, so I'm not sure if it'll have anything specific to say, but you know, that's for us to find out, and I'm excited to go into that journey. Number 9 spot is the Book of Azathoth Tarot by Nemo, or I guess Nemo's Locker. Within the last couple of years, Nemo's Locker actually came out with a guidebook for his Book of Azathoth Tarot. This is a Lovecraftian tarot. This will be the closest thing to Thoth studies that I will ever get, because I'm really not a fan of the way the traditional Thoth deck by Crowley looks. And so I figured it would be better that I just kind of indulged in the book. I have the 6th edition, by the way. This deck, I've never really been too into it, because I really enjoy literature. I have mixed feelings about H.P. Lovecraft for more historical reasons than anything else, but I am interested in maybe diving into this world and seeing what it does have to offer as a text in and of itself. So that'll be the Book of Azathoth Tarot 6th edition. And now for the final entry, and this is gonna be kind of cheating because I don't actually own the deck. It's the Hexen 2.0. How big is this? Okay, maybe I should like zoom out. Give me a second. So this is the Hexen 2.0 by Suzanne Treister. I purchased this shortly before even the art book went out of print. And mind you, this deck went through 2 printings and both of them went out of print before I discovered it. Now, the reason why this is gonna be, oh god, look at it. I'm sorry, I'm already gushing. So this is my holy grail of tarot decks. This is the deck that I will most likely never have in my collection because it's like $1 bazillion on eBay almost always, and I'm a little cynical about whether or not Treister will actually come out with a reprint. Not that I blame anyone, but this deck, this art book rather, it's pretty much a culmination of a bunch of things that I don't even know how to explain it. I guess let me start here. So I have an academic background of American studies and religious studies. I've studied pop culture, and I have studied the history of technology, cybernetics, and pop culture in general. So this deck is a culmination of everything that I have lightly studied on, and things that I would have loved to go even deeper with. And I'm hoping, originally this deck didn't make the cut for my resolution because it was just too broad. But I rediscovered an essay written by, I forgot his name. His name is like Lars something. I'll link it in the description. But it's on Suzanne Treister's website. And I figured that would be a great place for me to start. So this would be more of like a response than an actual book report, because the art book is just that. It's an art book. Often people will say that this is the guidebook, but it's just the pictures but bigger, which I think it's kind of better this way. I can't imagine how big the actual product is. I mean, I guess I could watch a walkthrough of it, but that would make me feel sad. So this is going to be the deck that I will most likely end with alongside the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. It's the Hexen 2.0 Tarot by Suzanne Treister. Alrighty, here's our lightning round for honorable mentions. Here are the decks that didn't make the cut. These are the philosophy cards, and as much as I love existentialist philosophy, I would have to go back to a couple of readings that I really don't want to go back to. Heidegger is not fun to read, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. The other honorable mention is the Next World Tarot. This one is perfect as it is. Like, me doing this book report thingy isn't really, it's not saying that a deck needs work in order to understand what it has to offer, but this one is pretty forthright and blunt about what it's meant to be used for. And I might go into a video explaining why that is. So this might be more of one of those video essay topics that I'll have planned. So who knows? We'll see. But this one's not getting a book report as far as I'm concerned. And the last deck that I have in our honorable mentions pile is the Tarot of the Silicon Dawn. Now, to be honest, I'm going to be completely transparent here and say that I didn't even realize that this deck was an option to be able to do a book report on, because I was looking through all the decks that I have in my collection and thinking, okay, so what has a pretty extensive guidebook or supplemental material that I can take a look at in order to create a solid book report? And I realized kind of a little too late that I could actually do that with this deck, because this deck, here's the guidebook here, it has quite a bit of information, and I remember reading through a couple of entries and realizing that the author, Egypt Urnash, has a lot to offer, her 2 cents in the deck. And so this might actually be something that I'll go ahead and move forward with if I can find the time to do that. So that is all of our honorable mentions. So that is the list of tarot decks that I'm going to be taking a look at for this year and trying to figure out like what their world is and what their thesis is, maybe what their argument is. The decks that you're seeing right now are the decks that I've already gotten started on for reading through or even having like an outline for. And I do have a couple of outlines for additional essays too. And in the meantime, you can expect maybe a VR or 2 from me while I work on the other stuff. So thanks a ton for joining me at my study space here, and I do look forward to seeing you next time. Bye!